This is the first ever edition of Football Manager. And look how different it is. It is so green, and even Manchester United are good. My goal for this video is to win the Premier League with the team that finished bottom of that season in real life, the 04-05 season, which was Southampton. And in true rebuild style, I'm going to give myself 5 years to get the job done. So I set up the game, and let's dive into season number 1. This Southampton team has some fantastic players in the squad. I'm looking at the likes of 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 in goal and James Beattie up front, who looks like he could be a real player for us. I've also got a 15-year-old Theo Walcott, who I will be promoting to the first team and will be getting minutes as soon as he is old enough. And given the fact that this is an old version of Football Manager and some of the newer functionalities are here, like blocking the first transfer window, I was actually able to make a signing or two before season number 1. First up, we signed young Belgian fullback Anthony van den Boer from Anderlecht for £800,000, and we've queued up the transfer of former wonder kid 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 from DC United. And heading into the Premier League season, there are some outstanding teams at this particular time. We've got a Manchester United side with an 18-year-old Wayne Rooney, a 19-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo, and even in his prime, a 25-year-old Rio Ferdinand. Arsenal have the likes of Ashley Cole, Patrick Vieira and Thierry Henry, and the team that actually won the Premier League that season is Jose Mourinho's Chelsea, with prime John Terry and Frank Lampard. So we've definitely got our work cut out for us. We are going to be rocking a 4-2-3-1 tactic to try and bring a modern flavour to an old match engine. So let's get into it. To kick things off, I have to tell you, this game is hitting me right in the nostalgia. This is the first Football Manager game that I ever played. Let me know down in the comments the first one that you ever played, but I have to say, this is what's revitalized my love for Football Manager and this epic game series. There was still a steep learning curve, as I found out, as we were dumped out of the League Cup in the second round by League 2 side Rushden and Diamonds. Not my best performance ever. However, after a rough start, we started to pick up results in the Premier League, and we were 10th place at the end of the January transfer window. But in that window, we did manage to make a couple of signings, including bringing in 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 from Colombia for a measly £2.5 million, alongside 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪, who was at the time labelled the next Pelé. Honestly, I do remember it at the time. That is what he was dubbed by the media. He had a photo alongside Pelé. Crazy. And finally, we secured the services of future Arsenal and Belgium captain Thomas Vermaelen on a free transfer from Ajax. However, he will join us in the summer. And obviously, this is the power of hindsight coming back in, playing a game that's 20 years old. I actually know who's pretty good in terms of who developed in real world football, but I don't know who fully was good in this match engine. But you'd like to think someone like Thomas Vermaelen would be a good sign. Results were a bit hit and miss in the second half of the season, but we managed to end the campaign in 12th with 13 more points than Saints did in real life. However, the kicker for us this season was our actual performance in the FA Cup. We managed to dispatch Oldham, Preston North End, Manchester City and even Chelsea on our way to an FA Cup final where we take on Manchester United. Perhaps I probably shouldn't have fired shots at this team in my introduction. And to make things even more of a challenge, my star striker James Beattie demanded a transfer on the day of the FA Cup final. Cheers, James.
I prefer really not to speak.
We took to the field as massive underdogs in this game, and you could see the difference between the two sides as United roared into a 2-0 lead at half-time thanks to goals from Alan Smith and Louis Saha. The second half came and went, and we couldn't breach Tim Howard in the United goal to see us end the season trophyless. However, I do still have 4 seasons to go, so I will have to get busy in this summer transfer market. Oh, and as I was playing through the summer, England appointed Big Sam as their manager 11 years before they did that in real life. And fingers crossed this time, this one, doesn't end in like scandal and disgrace. Moving into our second season, I was able to move several players out of the door, players that I didn't think were quality enough to take us to where we want to be, but I still had a problem signing people because of work permits. I actually forgot that this was a problem pre-Brexit as well. I wanted to add FM legend 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 from Orlando Pirates in South Africa and Nemanja Vidic from CSKA in Moscow, but both failed their work permit application, meaning we will have to attack this season with our best 11 looking like this. However, over the summer no one wanted James Beattie, so he will remain at the club and I will try to get him to sign another deal, but we can't afford what he wants right now. And as FA Cup winners last season, we will be making our European debut, but I'm not expecting that one to go very well at all. Now I do have to say season number 2 was not our year for cup competitions. Manchester United continued to be a thorn in our side, knocking us out of the League Cup, and West Brom sent us home packing in the FA Cup. Our European adventure was a tad more successful as we snuck past Dynamo Kyiv with a 3-1 aggregate win. After that though, we faced Schalke in the Euro Cup first knockout round, and the German side dispatched us after a 3-3 draw, with us exiting the competition on away goals. Who remembers away goals? Honestly, nostalgia levels OP. So to make myself feel better, I made a huge January signing as I raided River Plate for a young Javier Mascherano who just cost me £8 million. With Mascherano and 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 anchoring our midfield, we flew up the table with some amazing results and secured ourselves a 7th place finish in the Premier League, meaning that we qualified for the Euro Vase. And to be perfectly honest with you guys, I can't remember what this competition was supposed to be, so please do let me know what it is down in the comments, because I have no idea what competition I was even playing in at this point. But another season in Europe should allow me to go after some of the better names on my shortlist, especially with several players' contracts expiring this summer. Moving into our third season, we have massive Big Sam news with England as they managed to win the 2006 World Cup, beating Germany 3-1 in the final with goals from Michael Owen, Danny Murphy and Wayne Rooney. But back on the south coast, I got very busy and raided some of those free transfers that I wanted to actually really take us up to the next level. We picked up Michael 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪, Marco Marchioni, Fabio Grosso, Stephen Warnock and a young Leo Messi, all on free transfers. And a player who is still at the club is James Beattie, despite his contract expiring. No one actually wanted him at the end of his deal, and he still remains at the club and will be able to play football for us until someone wants to sign him or until I can agree a new contract with him, but at the moment he doesn't want to talk contracts with me, so I guess we'll just have to see how that one goes. Which means this is how our best 11 is looking going into the season, and I'll be looking to make it back into Europe again via the league. Before the transfer window slammed shut, we made a couple more additions to the squad as we picked up Park Ji-sung from PSV for £5.75 million and Emmanuel Eboue from Beveren for £2.5 million. And those signings really took us to the next level. Results were ticking over nicely domestically, but it was in the Euro Vase where we really excelled, making it all the way to the final where we beat Mallorca 7-2 over 2 legs to see us qualify for the Euro Cup. We had a tricky group but managed to squeak through as a 3rd place team in Group C behind Parma and AEK Athens. However, those good results were derailed very quickly as at this point in the season, almost halfway through, James Beattie left on a free, and he was my top goal scorer. He joined Newcastle for free in January after scoring 15 goals for us in all competitions, but that did leave us without a true striker. So we had to dive back into the transfer market for that elusive goal scorer and secured the services of a young Lukas Podolski from Cologne for just £8 million. And for me personally, this is a massive upgrade. Yes, James Beattie was very good for us. Podolski, he is going to be unreal. With Podolski in the team, we rolled through a majority of our games with us winning more than we lost. But it seemed like Manchester United were our Achilles heel in this version of FM, as not only did they beat us in the FA Cup quarter-finals, but also in a second final of this rebuild as they won 2-0 in the League Cup final. On European soil, we were a little unlucky, losing on away goals for a second season in a row in the knockout stages of the competition, this time to Italian side Sampdoria after another 3-3 draw. However, the Premier League is our bread and butter, and I wanted to drive forward to those top 4 places to secure that Champions League qualification for this Southampton side, but this season, it wasn't to be. We massively improved on last year's campaign and finished 5th on 74 points, just a single point outside the Champions League spots and what would have been a massive payday. Nevertheless, this team has made massive strides this season, but we can't rest here as I've got my eye on several players who will become free agents over the summer. And that's just as well because I've been given just shy of £5 million to spend on players. Remember I said before I was looking at several free transfers in this summer window? Well, I managed to pick up 3 of them. First, we signed Italian legend Antonio Di Natale, followed by serial spitter 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 and a guy I've never heard of in Remco van der Schaaf, all on free transfers to give us much needed experience. Oh, and I signed my first player for £10 million as we raided Spurs for centre-back Ledley King, who is going to be the perfect partner for 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 at the centre of our defence. But on the eve of the season starting, we were set to lose one of our key players as Manchester United came in to steal Park Ji-sung from us for £15 million. And for me, it feels like that move was inevitable, with Park Ji-sung ending up back at Old Trafford. However, I used some of that money to sign another name that you'll all be familiar with as I acquired future Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta from Athletic Bilbao for £5.25 million. And Park Ji-sung wasn't the only massive outgoing transfer that we had in that summer window. After one full season with the club, Marco Marchionni was signed by Spanish side Real Betis for a whopping £20 million. And believe me when I say, I will be spending all of this cash in the January transfer window. Our league form was outstanding in season 4, so much so that we were top of the league going into January. This was largely down to the fact that Lukas Podolski is a freak and rifled in 25 goals in just 22 games. However, in the mid-season transfer window, Manchester United came shopping at Southampton yet again. This time activating the £7 million release clause for Antonio Di Natale, which is a shame because he was killing it for us this season. And he'd only been here since the summer, but what that did do was give us a massive war chest for me to go shopping. First on the hit list was Philipp Lahm, who we signed from Roma, not Bayern Munich, for £10 million. He was followed up by Russian goalkeeper Igor Akinfeev from CSKA Moscow for another £8 million. And I had my first dabble in the old school new gen market as I signed Brazilian youngster Alex for just £1.4 million. So the team was beginning to be a real force in the league, but still struggled in the domestic cup competitions, losing to Birmingham in the League Cup and Chelsea in the FA Cup. But it was in Europe where we really excelled. We came second in our Euro group behind Fiorentina, but advanced into the knockout stages for a 3rd season in a row. However, unlike previous seasons, we managed to defeat teams as we advanced past Wisła Kraków, Tottenham and even Atletico Madrid to set up a semi-final tie with German giants Bayern Munich. The game in Munich was a learning experience for us as we conceded 2 goals early in what was ultimately a 2-0 loss. We did win the game at St Mary's thanks to an Owen Hargreaves own goal, but it wasn't enough and we saw our remarkable European adventure come to an end. Bayern then went on to lift the trophy, beating Dynamo Kyiv in that final 2-0. But in the Premier League, it was our year. Results were amazing throughout the entire campaign and we had things in our own hands going into the final game of the season. Win against West Brom and we were champions. And the boys did just that with a 3-0 win on the road, with Podolski bagging a brace alongside a nice goal from Mikel Arteta. Bet you guys are loving the 2D, right? Right? Honestly, I'm telling you, the nostalgia's so good. So we were Premier Division champions, and that was largely down to German Podolski, who won the Golden Boot in the league and was one of 4 of our players inside the Team of the Year. However, yes, I'm aware that is the goal of this save, was to win the Premier League. We did it inside 4 seasons with a team that was already in the Prem. But now I'm in the Champions League, guys, and I can't put this save down. We're going to do another one. We're going to get into the Champions League with Southampton. And thanks to that Champions League qualification, my board have given me £14.5 million to get us ready over the summer. Over this summer window, I did not rest because I signed 4 huge players, and you are not going to believe how much I paid for one of them. And that one was Italian legend 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 𝙈𝙚 from AC Milan, and we paid just £5 million for him as he was in their reserves. Next on the list was Ricardo Quaresma from Porto for £7.5 million to bolster our options on that right hand side. This was followed up by another Champions League winner in Portuguese icon Deco, who was a free transfer after leaving Barcelona at the end of his contract. And finally, I needed a reserve goalkeeper, so I snagged Fabian Barthez on a free transfer to give us that experience of a World Cup winner. So the team was literally bursting at the seams with talent, and we were deeper in every position than ever, which means we would start the season really well with the Community Shield, right? Chelsea tore us apart at Wembley, winning the game 4-0 to give me a real taste of reality going into the year. After Chelsea handed us our first defeat of the year, we recovered well in the Premier League, so much so that Liverpool even came calling for my services after they sacked Rafa Benitez. Naturally, I said no to the offer, and it's just as well, because this team went on to clinch back-to-back Premier Division titles, winning the title with a single game remaining. And competitions-wise, we were actually fighting pretty well on 4 fronts this season, but ultimately, something had to give. We lost again to United in a knockout competition as they beat us in the League Cup, and it was Arsenal who sent us packing in the FA Cup. But it wouldn't be the last time that we'd see Arsenal this season. However, for me this year, it was all about playing in the Champions League, or in this Football Manager's version, the European Champions Cup, as I really wanted to show what this Southampton side that I built was all about. We topped Group E without really getting out of second gear, but it was in the knockouts where we started rubbing shoulders with Europe's elite. Dortmund gave us little resistance in the first knockout round as we defeated them 4-1 over 2 legs. It was Barcelona in the quarterfinals, and there were plenty of goals in this tie, as after a 3-3 draw at home, we went to the Nou Camp and dominated, winning 6-1 away in Spain. Honestly, I thought I was finished after they scored 3 goals at our place, but apparently this team had other ideas. That result set up an all-English semi-final as we had to take on Chelsea. The first leg was at Stamford Bridge, and it was yet another Lucas Podolski masterclass as the German scored both of our goals in a 2-1 win. Just a week later, the score was the same with us winning 2-1 at home to race through to our first ever Champions League final. Remember I said we'd play Arsenal again? Here they are. Wenger, Henry, all of the boys ready on the line for a Champions League final. And in this one we got off to a terrible start as 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 𝙤𝙪 scored for the Gunners inside the first 60 seconds of the game. That was followed up by a Thierry Henry brace, leaving us 3-0 down at the hour mark. Our lads left it late to battle back, but did show some character as we added 2 goals of our own, but it was too little, too late as Arsenal won the Champions League for the first time. And this was my little trip down memory lane. If you want to see some more of these retro games, even retro football management games, I've got some interesting ones lined up, but let me know what you would like to see down in that comment section. And YouTube, I guess we're back, right?